Good afternoon, Yate. Shaya Sonia Nazian, Nomination Broadband Office Department Manager. I'm the Department Manager for the Nomination Broadband Office. Tenji Kidin is Slingo Tokia Dlini Bashishin Ado Kanazani Dashichedo, Kia Ani Dashanalach, and Lina Enasha. And I'm here today with Teresa Hopkins and also Bernardo Patillo, and we're going to be talking about the Nomination Broadband Office, what it's, who we are, where we're at, what we're doing, and what we're going to accomplish for the Navajo Nation, for the Navajo Nation people. And we'll go ahead and get started with the slides here. Apologize. Okay. So who we are is the Navajo Broadband Office, and we're going to be talking about the Navajo Broadband Plan. We have a plan together to connect the nation to get to 5G and by 2030. So what we have work ongoing, the broadband plan, and also we're supporting the telecom regulation draft. Okay, so here's where we're situated right now. Just a quick org chart. So you'll hear about the Navajo Nation Digital Equity Initiative Team, and who that is the Navajo Nation Telecommunication Regulatory Commission in the blue box there, and then my office, the Navajo Nation Broadband Office. Myself, Sonia Nez, and then Madalena Keys, the senior PPS, and Badwina is the AA, Badwina Harrison. And then we have America's Communication, where Bernardo Portillo is the CEO, and on his team he has Brian Gilbert and Teresa Hopkins. So and then we all report to Chief of Staff, and then up to the Navajo Nation President and Vice President. So we are situated within the executive branch, and so when you hear Navajo Nation Digital Equity Initiative Team, DEI, that's who we are. So just to let you know. Okay, next we're going to talk about the Navajo Nation Broadband Office, and RDCD 33-22. That's our plan of operations. Was created under that legislation, and it's on our website at www.broadband.navajo-nsn.gov. And you'll see our plan of operations there, what we're created for, and the purpose of the office shall have the power to perform any and all acts necessary and convenient to fulfill the following. Anything and all things broadband, that's what we're here for, and you can read the details there. But the main thing we want to point out is we're to develop a comprehensive strategic broadband plan for the nation. So that is our main purpose that we want to talk about today. So next is the objectives. But before that, I wanted to go into why we need a broadband plan. And you'll see this slide later, but for economic growth and development, for education, public safety, transportation, housing, job creation, healthcare, commerce, tourism. Those are the sectors that need this broadband for economic growth. That's the main plan, the main thing we're shooting for, getting all this infrastructure out there, getting the towers out there, the fiber out there. For why? To get the economic development going. So the benefits are going to be, of course, drive economic development, improve public safety. You hear a lot of people out there saying we can't get any cell phone signal to call 911. So we want to make sure that those people are taken care of. Enhance education. You'll have you heard about during COVID, all the kids, having to congregate to a bus that's sitting on a hill to connect to internet. So we want to address those issues and get education taken care of. And of course, foster job creation. When we have high speed broadband out in the nation, you can have call centers and all kinds of opportunities for job creation. And we want to boost healthcare and commerce. We want to capitalize on tourism potential. So those are just some of the benefits for getting broadband out there. And then our objectives, let's go back to that, is to expand the middle mile fiber and towers to all unserved and high cost areas. We want to utilize the current existing tower infrastructure for co-location. We want to establish nomination fiber and tower ownership under the open access principles on a non-discriminatory basis. set market rates on tribal assets to encourage competition for future BEAD funding for last mile services and mobile 5G services. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the floor over to Teresa Hopkins. Turn the floor.
Yate, good afternoon, everyone. Those listening online, we appreciate your attendance and your interest in listening to us today. As Sonia said, I'm Teresa Hopkins and I'm part of the Navajo Nation Digital Equity Team under the Office of the President and Vice President in coordination with the Broadband Office. One of the initiatives that we're working on, we're helping to support the Navajo Land Department in the revision of their regulatory and telecom leases and permitting as we move forward. As we all know, within the Navajo Nation, anytime you need a right-of-way or lease, whether it's for telecom, utility, deployment, development, anything new, when it comes to construction, it's a lengthy process. So the Navajo Land Department has taken the lead on this initiative, and we're providing support in that area. So the offices that are involved with the regulatory reform is the Land Department, Department of Justice, the Broadband Office, the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. We're also working with the BIA because of the land statuses as allotments that we see. We're also involved with the community, trying to get their input. And most importantly, we also have this time around started to involve telecom carriers and providers, those that do have a point of presence on the Navajo Nation, as well as those that have an interest in helping to provide potential services, new services on the Navajo Nation. So part of this process is,
Go ahead and add to stage and then the arrows. Yeah.
okay. So part of this process is, you can see the timeline here. This process started back in May at the support of the Resources and Development Committee, as well as the NNTRC, designating the entities to work together to come up with a plan. So the initial draft was started with an outline of how we were going to proceed, which took place on June 5th. At that point, they were meeting with the public stakeholders, letting them know about the proposed plan and the process, and that took place on June 12th, at Gallup at UNM campus. On July 9th, the first draft of the regulations was released to the public. If anybody in the community, the audience out there wants to see a draft copy of the regulations again, you can go to the Navajo Nation Broadband Office website. You can either Google Navajo Nation Broadband, or again, the website is broadband.navajo-nsn.gov. So we're right now, the regulations have been released. We have received numerous feedback on the regulations. So the second draft will be released this coming Monday on August 9th. After that meeting, then there'll be, after the regulations have been reviewed with the comment period, during the comment period, then a redraft of the regulations will take place. At that time, all of the entities, service providers, community, who's ever involved in the process will be invited to participate for a second round of the review of the draft. Potentially, we're hoping to have the draft approved by RDC in September 12th, which is a few months away. So as Sonia talked about, we have a couple of topics we want to go over. One is the Navajo Nation Broadband Plan, and why a comprehensive, equitable broadband plan is important, and why as Navajo Nation, we need to make an investment in making broadband as a priority. As we know in broadband, when it comes to technology use, there's more than one part. Yes, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Verizon, sell one, and you can buy a device, whether it's a cell phone or whether it's a tablet, but there's more beyond that. We found that within our Navajo communities, it was going to take more than having a device. Once a broadband is implemented throughout the Navajo Nation, there's actually 3 areas that still need to be covered. First, you need access to the technology. Access to the technology is your laptop, is your telephone, is your tablet, your iPad, whatever that source may be. And then the device that you would use to connect, how do you connect to that? As I mentioned, the different types of devices to get access to that. Then once you get You may have the device, now you may be connected to the internet. The problem now comes, we find, especially with elders in our community, is how do you actually use the applications on these devices? And do community members even have the device to get access to these services? So those are the three areas, which is internet access, devices, and digital skills. And the Broadband Office is working with other partners within the Navajo Nation to address the three issues. So the ultimate goal is ensuring that all Navajo people have access to the quality and affordable broadband services, which includes access to having the right device to use on the internet, to access services that you need, and to know how to use them. The other problem that we've encountered in working with tribal communities is trying to help communities and leadership understand the differences between equity and equality. Even though you can give everyone equally, let's say the same dollar amount of money, say everybody gets $1, but really what can you do with $1? When you need to look at the circumstances of each individual that you're giving that dollar to. And it's the same situation with broadband. Even though you may have access to broadband, there's a number of funding that's available now for broadband services and access. But the problem, though, is that a lot of times investments are made in the bigger communities where investors see a return back, where they see the customer base. But by doing it that way, you'll never have an equal balance or across the Navajo Nation. So in that sense, equal doesn't always necessarily work, as in this diagram. You see on the diagram on the right, if everyone was just given the same size box to stand on, you'll see that the taller kid will have some access. The little girl in the middle with the green skirt has a limited access, but the young child at the bottom has no access. But if you look at equity and taking a different approach and seeing that in some instances, you're going to have to provide more resources in order for all three to have the same access. And that's the same with technology today on the reservation. And we see that, say, in the Bennett Freeze area in Western Navajo, where they've always been left out because of issues that have arisen in the past when it comes to land dispute issues. So we're trying to get away from that and looking more at having equitable distribution, which is not the same as equal distribution. And now I'll turn it back over to Ms. Nez.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I wanted to share a slide. How is my home connected? How is my place out in Chinle or out in Dilcon or wherever I'm at? How am I connected? And so just a quick slide on, you see your house, the house there. I don't know if you can see the mouse here. The house there, then connected over to the tower, right? And then from the tower, you're connected over to fiber, either on the poles, on the electric poles, or it could be buried back into, that's these poles here, and then back into, I think this is Window Rock here, and then back into the hotel, internet hotel, I think, and then back out to the world. So at the top here, you have the same flow, but just from your house with your electronics there, connected to the tower, either through satellite, through the tower, or through fiber. Those are the three options there, and then you're connected to the various gates here and then out into the world. So just a quick diagram of how your home is connected to the internet. Okay, and then here we want to talk about, you'll hear about middle mile and last mile and what it is. And I really wanted to bring this slide up because, for our leadership, for the Nomination Council, for different ones, because we got to pay for this, right? And so you can think of the left side as a foundation to a home. So we're going to build this foundation, this infrastructure foundation on the left side, the middle mile foundation. We got to build that out because funding is coming from the states, and the nomination is part of New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. And so there's last mile funding coming from the states called BEAD. And so, but what we need to do first is build the middle mile infrastructure, the foundation. And so that is your buried fiber coming into your power poles. It could be, aerial. From there, again, you can shoot out to your tower. Your tower can have fiber connected to it. and then that's one way of connecting over to your last mile, which is through your mobile wireless, through your internet via your phone, or fixed wireless access, and that's going to be shooting from the tower to electronics on your house. That's going to be fixed wireless. So that's one option to connect to your home. The second option is fiber to the home, which is fiber coming from the power poles or these ones coming in, that would go connect to your home. The last one is the satellite. So like the coming in from satellite to your home. So those are our options. And I really wanted to bring this up to let leadership know, everyone out there know that last mile, remember, is going to be BEAD funding. Middle mile is going to be money that we can work with the Navajo Nation Council to get that covered under that. So we'll have some numbers here shortly for you as to what that's going to cost. Main projects underway on the Navajo Nation. There are many projects happening on the nation. E-rate projects, Connect America Fund, go all the way down. Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, RDOF, Connect New Mexico. So there's a lot of activity going on the nation, and we'll have maps later on to show you. So, and then now we're going to talk about the Broadband Development Plan. Again, as I said, we're working on the middle mile foundation. We need to get this built so that we can finish the rest of the house, the rest of to get fiber, to get connectivity to the homes, right? That's the main thing. We want to get connectivity to you out there, to each home, to each house, to each person out there. And so that's what we're shooting for. We have, so some things that happen real quick here. ARPA money is converted to general fund money. So we have some money there. And then we have the BEAD money that's going to build out the 5G foundation. And we're wanting to work towards Navajo-owned infrastructure. RFP for the towers and the fiber that's going to be coming out soon. Navajo broadband support for the Digital Equity Initiative. We have policy and regulatory changes coming up, telecommunications regulatory support. And the bottom is searching for money for the middle mile support to build out the BEAD. To build out the last mile so that BEAD can pay for that. So those are high level objectives that we're working on. And here, Bernardo, you want to talk about this part real quick? Want to bring Bernardo in here to talk about this slide?
Thank you, Sonia. Good morning or afternoon already?
I think it's afternoon, yeah.
Afternoon or good lunch, or whatever time it is. Yeah, my name is Bernardo Portilla. I'm working on this Digital Equity Initiative program under the OPVP office, and with the help of pretty much all the departments in the Navajo Nation. We have had tremendous help from land department, the delegates, the community. So we totally appreciate that. Okay. So one of the main things that we're working right now is on a project sponsored by the federal government called BEAD, which stands for Broadband Equity Access and Deployment. And in a nutshell, the BEAD program it has the objective to connect every Navajo in the United States to the internet. The program is not to provide internet. We got to make sure you make the difference, or you understand the difference. The program is to connect every household and community anchor institution to some sort of internet. So on that slide, you can see number 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 different priorities for connectivity. The priority number 1 is to connect your household or the community anchor institution via fiber, right? So that's the first priority. That's how initially the program was created. Later on, NTIA and the people working on BEAD at the Washington level then kind of make the realization that not everyone can be connected to fiber here in the Navajo Nation, even though is one of the objectives of the administration for year 2030. We also understand the difficulty and the cost. So there is another priority, which is priority number 2, which is connect your household, your community and institution via wireless, and it's called fixed wireless access. And the third option is the option to connect that endpoint via satellite, and the only company that has been endorsed to provide this service right now is Starlink, right? So the issue with this is in terms of cost effectiveness, Starlink probably is the most cost effective. Then we have the fixed wireless access, and the third option, the most expensive option, is the fiber. However, in terms of service, in terms of how much the people, the end user, is going to pay, it works the opposite. Fiber connections are, and this is not for a specific Navajo region, but in general, fiber connectivity are the less expensive. Then you have the wireless connectivity, a little bit more expensive than that. And satellite, that is a little bit too expensive right now. Right now, the price tag for your information is Starlink is about $120 a month, right? Even though it seems like Starlink is working on different options, a little bit less expensive, but I don't think they want to get down to the price of a fiber connection or the wireless connection. So this is an actual picture. The figure that you see here is an actual picture of a community near Shiprock, in which we're identifying how big is going to be deployed, right? Number one, we have actually see some communities with a lot of density in which there's existing fiber right now. For instance, this is a specific fiber. So you are, and it's a realistic picture. This is a fiber that Secret Wind is building, and they are building with the support of a program that Sonia was mentioned, one of the NTIA grant that is managed by NTA. So with this, they are building this, and I guess they will probably expand to the areas they are not serving right now with these houses here, right? So that's the number one. The middle mile is going to be existing probably for this area, but for the future, that's what the essence of the broadband plan is. The Navajo Nation trying to build that middle mile with that doesn't exist. Then at number two, we can see two different flavors per se. One is a tower that's going to be built here, like the red tower at the top, in order to cover these pops or these households that are really far away from the fiber. And the other one is using existing infrastructure that are going to be extending the service, right? So that's just kind of the two things. Where Sonia's office and the Navajo Nation administration comes is building this red tower. With this red tower, service provider will be able to put equipment on their towers in order to provide this fixed wireless access to this population area that is located in two. And the third option, of course, whoever has been driving around Navajo, you know of households that are really built in the middle of a canyon with no access, and the only clear view is to the sky. So those are the options that will have the satellite infrastructure built into the roof. Again, this BEAD program is only to connect, to pay for the connection to the house, is not to pay for your recurring services. The way there was initially thought of with ACP to cover for those services, ACP is no longer here, so we wouldn't know what's going to happen, right? But we need to take care. So BEAD will build the last mile, and hopefully the Navajo Nation, with the support from the private industry and another type of industry, we're going to be building the middle mile that is missing. And we will have some maps to show that. Okay, so this is another graph of what Sonia was explaining and how BEAD were going to be in place, and kind of explained the three priorities. On the left side, you see, okay, now that I have internet, what I can do. It's not only about watching Facebook or watching Netflix, right? It's a little bit more. This deployment of broadband across the Navajo Nation will allow us to, okay, work from our cars, do something in the car while we're driving our kids to school, or when the kids driving on the bus, being able to connect and do some homework, because we all know that the time that the Navajos spend on the car is very significant, right? We also allow the people to get some health support, remote health support. This is an actual picture of someone from the Army Force that is getting support from a doctor located in Germany, right? And this happened to be, as I say, a picture of that something was happening on a native land. The other part, very important, that is going to take more and more I would say, impact in the way we do business is IoT, which stands for Internet of Things, in which different devices are going to be connected to the internet, right? The refrigerator, the microwave, the security system, the irrigation, surveillance for our sheep, things of that nature. Entertainment, big part, right? We all have the right to spare some time and watch some movies and getting educated and do some distant learning. And of course, remote working. As I mentioned many times, here, Teresa is a clear example of remote working and how the lack of broadband in her location didn't allow her to have access to a very high-paid job. You have your household with the 3 different ways to connect it. You have your satellite connection, you have your wireless connection, and then you have your fiber connections. These wireless towers and this fiber connection will connect it to gateways. Normally, that will go to a different gateways, and those gateways will communicate to a massive network of fiber optics that is across the United States and across the world. For instance, if for that example that was mentioned, the person that was being consulted by a doctor in Germany, right? It will come out from a submarine cable. There's a cable there's a multiple cable that is sitting on the seabed, and those join continents from one to other, right? On the satellites, a little bit, it's kind of similar. However, the satellite don't have infrastructure that we can see, at least. They are located 550 kilometers above on the skies, and then connected to gateways in the ground, big gateways in the ground, big data centers as well, that then will share the fiber optic connection as well. So here, if you are located in your chapter, you will be having access to entertainment, doctors, remote education, or jobs anywhere in the world. A little bit of the numbers about BEAD, so we understand the significance of that. As I mentioned, this is a federal program that was given a lot of funding to the states. The funding is not given to the Navajo Nation or the tribes or the people. The funding is provided to the states. Then the states have the job to find service providers they're willing to connect, right? It's going to be an open bid. The state funding, like for instance, in the case of Arizona, got almost $1 billion, $993 million to support this effort, right? But this one will be distributed to every unserved and underserved house in Arizona, right? In the Navajo Nation, there is about over 30,000 houses that are considered unserved and underserved. So each house is going to get a piece of that pie. Same for New Mexico, 675 million, and Utah, 317. However, Utah has only 2,300 households in that one. As I say, it's to the household level. It's not a support to a person or a population, it's to a household, right? The service areas is where the state have considered how they're going to treat the project. Like for Arizona, they have considered the Navajo Nation a single service area, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be only one service provided. That has not been quite yet defined, but it's a single service area. New Mexico has considered delegate areas, and in Utah is to be defined, and they're going to define that after the run application. Once again, the objective is to cover every unserved and underserved. Basically, anybody that does not have a possibility to connect to 100 megabits downlink and 20 megabits uplink will be considered for this funding. In the case of Navajo Nation, it's over 99% of the households. So pretty much every household will be getting BEAD funding. The current status of the project, I guess, right now is they're going to start a pre-application process. I think they just finished the review process. One important thing to consider is anybody that's going to be receiving BEAD funding will need to have tribal consent in terms of the service provider, right? If a service provider XYZ is going to deploy BEAD connectivity for Arizona, they must have tribal consent. That's just kind of the important thing. It's not like they can just do it on their own. Okay, so let's talk about the summary of the plan. Sonia, are you taking this?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the what we've been working for a few months since January and trying to put it on a one page. As I said, this is an effort from the Navajo Nation Broadband Office, NTRC, Navajo Nation DI team, the Office of the President, Vice President, different entities are supporting it, also Land Department, the delegates, the community, right? So in terms of the timeline, we released a draft of the RFP for public review back in May. That public review has been completed. Right now, we are reviewing comments and updating the RFP. We were hoping to have this RFP ready by the end of July, but because of some recent comments received, we might be extended all the way to August 2024 to make a final selection by December 2024. Hopefully, we can start building infrastructure in the first quarter of 2025. The objective, again, and is not we're trying to be redundant, but we want to make sure everybody understand this, is to provide the foundation for BEAD and for 5G. The priority is middle mile infrastructure because the last mile is going to be paved by BEAD initially. Mainly, we're going to put our infrastructure in underserved areas. So some chapters, some communities say, why in the plan in Chinle we don't have a tower? Well, the reason in Chinle we have a tower is because based on our studies, Chinle does not need a tower. With the infrastructure we have, we're going to be accomplished. But there are areas like in the area of south of Cameron, southeast of Cameron, there's nothing there. So that area will have more infrastructure. So because we're focusing on that. And we're focusing on areas in which probably service providers will never deploy because there is not a return on investment, right? And another important thing, we're going to be bringing fiber to the wireless structures and chapter houses because the capacity required will not be supported by wireless, or at least for some areas. So in terms, Sonia will go into explaining where we're going to spend the money.
Thank you, Bernardo. So now we're going to talk about the budget. What's all this going to cost, and what is it? What is a bias? You know, what is the Nation Broadband Plan? And so what it boils down to, after Bernardo and his team, you know, they did the engineering, the analysis, and existing infrastructure, and putting all that information together, looking at coverage and what do existing towers cover, what parts are missing, who's not covered, and that kind of stuff. You know, so they did a great job in doing that and came up with a plan which is that we need 78 towers. In addition to the existing towers, we need 78 more towers. So these are going to be new towers, okay? And then we need 1,265 miles of fiber, and that's going to get fiber to the towers, and then 270 miles of fiber to the chapter houses. And we'll show you a map here in a little bit. But what is this going to cost, right? And this is $270 million. And remember, middle mile is what I'm talking about. This is just middle mile, just the, if you think of the foundation of a home, you know, we're just building the foundation of the home. And that's what this 270 million is gonna buy us. The 78 towers, the miles of fiber, all that's gonna be that. Then BEAD's gonna come in and finish the house. If you can imagine a house, you know, the BEAD money from the states is gonna finish the walls and the roof and all that kind of stuff. But you can't have a house without the foundation, right? And so that's what we're really focusing on with this 270 million. If we can build out that infrastructure to get the homes connected. So this is the budget. This is what we've been working with the leadership on to make sure they know about this number, make sure they know what it's going to buy, and working with the Nomination Council delegates. And we appreciate their support and their help, and as well as the president, vice president, and the OPVP team. So that's the budget. Okay, and here we'll talk about the map. This is a lot of lines and triangles and all that, but this is what it's going to look like. We're going to show you 4 maps. Okay, so this is a culmination of all the maps. So when we're all done in 2030, this is what we should have. So let me then go into the different pieces. Okay, so right here, this shows the existing fiber that's in place right now, and then the green triangles are the existing towers that are on the Navajo Nation, across the Navajo Nation. So, there is a lot already out there, but we still have a ways to go. And so, let me show you the next one here. This is now going to show you the progress. The projects that are in progress right now is all in red, right? There's up on the northern side, there's fiber being constructed, and then you have some red towers. Red triangles. Those are new towers that are being constructed, and so there is work going on right now across the nation, and so that's what this map shows. Okay, and then this next one is the important one that we want to make sure that we share with everyone out there on the Navajo Nation across the leadership spectrum. So the blue lines are the proposed fiber that we're talking about, the 1,265 miles of fiber that we mentioned earlier. So these are going to be fiber to towers, existing towers, fiber to the new towers, and then you'll see the triangles again. Those are the proposed towers. So if you count those up, those should come up to 78 towers. And so that's the proposed plan. And you can find these maps on our website, again, the Navajo Nation Broadband Office website. Okay. And let me go back to the other map real quick. So again, this is what we're shooting for. When all those pieces are done, that's what we'll have. So we're working very hard to get there. Let me have Teresa talk on this a little bit, even though we talked about it. Maybe you want to add some more, Teresa?
Thank you, Sonia. So the ultimate goal of the broadband plan, as Sonia and Bernardo alluded to throughout the presentation, is the importance of broadband. And we all felt the impact of not having broadband when COVID hit the entire world for over a year, where families were forced to work from home, or children were forced to go to school remotely, and then finding the difficulties in trying to do that. And the main reason being not having access. And even if you did have access, it was not reliable. In addition to not being reliable, because everyone was working from home, it basically slowed down the entire network from the Navajo Nation, regardless of whether you were connected through the chapter, whether you were sitting down at McDonald's, whether you were trying to get access through your cell phones. So again, broadband is important because of economics. In order to build economically for Navajo families, not just being able to have the ability to go to a job every day, but for those silversmith or artisans out there, the weavers, having the ability to sell online. Again, the ability for our kids for education. Because of COVID, that trend has continued, where our children are still expected to do homework from home and online. Public safety, always an important. Not public safety only from the aspect of our first responders, the police force, EMS, fire department, etc., but safety of the public. And what does that mean? The more and more we hear, starting to see posters being posted at gas stations, at laundromats, of family members going missing, and the importance now of having the ability to find ways to track our family members. Transportation, always important. It'd be nice to have more road signs, especially within bad weather, on roads that we know are treacherous because of snow coming up again soon, and having the ability to know before you leave your home that it may be best to stay home instead of traveling the roads. Housing. Unlike homes off the reservation, homes are becoming smart. Homes are now being built for the ability to and wired to take advantage of all of the great things out there. You have smart refrigerators. You can talk to your refrigerator at the grocery store to see if you have eggs, if you have milk. You can talk to your appliances. Like one day I left home, I didn't remember if I turned off the coffee pot. So what did I do? I have to call my sister, and my sister had to go to the house, literally drive there and see if I turned off the coffee pot. But if I lived in a smart home with a smart coffee pot, I could have just talked through technology to my coffee pot and say, turn off. Job creation. More and more jobs are becoming more remote. Amazon is always looking for at-home workers. And if you have the right speed, the right technology at your home, you could actually work from home. Healthcare, again, you don't need to go into the hospital. You don't need to go see your service provider to just do basic 15-minute checkups. And a lot of our families go through that. My mom, my sister, I got to drive them to get Albuquerque to get checked up. And the actual meeting between the doctor and family members is less than 15 minutes. And it would be nice to use technology. Again, commerce. How do we build on all of this technology to bring more resources into the Navajo Nation? And the greatest asset that the Navajo Nation now has is tourism. And how do we build on that? Because tourism leads to more jobs. It leads to more facilities being built in our communities as lodging, more gas stations, more convenience stores. It gives the ability for artisans to sell directly to the tourist industry. So again, the benefits, we've covered this in detail, is economic development, improving public safety. It enhances education, job creation. It improves and boosts healthcare and commerce. Again, bringing more resources into Navajo, knowing that our natural resources are dwindling. The mines have started to close, and how do we continue to adjust and make up the difference when it comes to cost savings? So again, with technology there, think about the potential. If you have livestock and you have ranchers, you can put cameras in the corral, and you can monitor if you have outside wildlife jumping into the corral that are attacking your sheep, your cows. You have the ability to put trackers on your sheep. So by phone, you can track literally where your sheep is at versus trying to go out and trying to find them by foot. You can put trackers on your children. Again, we hear about a lot of child abductions starting to take place more and more, having that ability to put trackers on family members, and not just our kids, but elders. Our elders, more and more, we're hearing about dementia and Alzheimer's and family members leaving home. And now you have the ability and a safer way of looking out for family members, again, just for the safety of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Also, I was thinking about when she's talking about the smart homes, the security of the home, like, right? You can have when your doors are open, like if you lock them at night and things are people, maybe trying to get in or something, or it'll sound the alarm and all that kind of stuff. And so, but that concludes our presentation. I like this slide. We're here to help. Contact us. Here's our email addresses and our website. And in closing, I want to say, unless do you have some things to add, Bernardo?
Yeah, one probably last thing. I'm not sure because I was in and out.
Sure.
I forgot to mention one important piece of the work we do is working with the community. Right. This is probably the first time the community has an opportunity to talk about the needs and the issues they are facing. And even though it's something new, we've been eagerly working with all the agencies out there, and some of them have provided an excellent feedback for how they can be included on this plan, right? This plan is being executed based on data, based on engineering information, based on the location of the households. However, this is also computer simulated study. We understand also that people may have a different view about where you have services or where you're lacking covers, things like that. Sonia, you have on your website, there is a link to a form that you can provide your feedback, right? The only thing that we need is your location information.
Your Latin long.
Latin long. Anybody that has a smartphone can get a GPS from that location and give us your feedback saying, hey, every time my service provider is X, Y, and Z, every time that I pass through here, I lose a call, or I don't have service, or my service is pretty bad. Service providers provide me broadband and in my home, but I don't have anything. I never had, or the service has been going bad. So we would like to have that feedback. My team actually on Friday was reviewing a feedback from the Piñon community, and because of that, we were able to relocate the site that was originally planned on the RFP about a mile away, and we were able to solve that problem. So that's what I only want to say. Make sure you provide us your feedback is very, very important.
Yes. Thank you, Bernardo. So that is very true. We want to hear from you. We want to, and we have people, even come visit our office and, call and email and say, just like Bernardo said, what about this site? And we'll do analysis on it and get back with you. And if it needs to be, if it's not covered, then it should be on our plan. So again, reach out to us. Here's our email addresses, and then also the website. There's a broadband request form that's on the website that you can download and email. There's instructions on there on who to email it to, myself and Beduina. And so I think we're good. Anything else to add? We're good?
No,
Okay.
okay.
So again, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and let's work together and get broadband out to the people, out to the nation, and it'll be screaming internet by the time we're done. Right, Bernardo?
Indeed.
All right. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a good
Thank you
afternoon.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.